Hey, have you ever wondered how companies can grow to millions of users or even more than millions of users? And how can they reach out these growth numbers and be able to scale up the business at a really fast pace that sometimes sounds even mind-blowing? In this video, let's go and talk about what scalability is and some tips that will help you scale up your business, your products, and your ways of working. My name is Juan Rodriguez and I'm a product director at a tech company in Finland. I have been working in tech companies now for 20 years and I would like to share my experiences with you. So we all have heard the stories about these companies that have started from nowhere and then suddenly start to ramp up the number of users, and suddenly they are growing into these massive unicorns that kind of seem to come out of nowhere. But there are certain things that these companies are doing that is going to help them a lot when it comes to bring that growth into their user base. But first of all, let's start with what is scalability. Scalability is the ability of doing more with less. Sounds very simple, but obviously it's not. But in summary, what this means is that how can you actually get done more with the same team that you have at this point, or without having to grow your team organically at the same pace as you are growing your user base. There's going to be different ways of doing this. Some of them they are going to be product related, some of them they're going to be more like business related, and some of them are going to be more process related. Let's start with the product related one. So first of all, you want to be able that you are solving a common problem that quite many people out there are having. That the product or the service that you are creating is actually solving that need or problem that many users out there are having. So here you're going to have to work a lot on validating the actual problem and seeing and understanding the actual potential of people that have that problem. Sometimes it depends on the product that you are building. If you especially have already an existing product, it might be that the reach that you have is not that big. You might not have like millions upon millions of customers out there. So potentially there's going to be a market cap that you will have to recognize. But sometimes, and this happens more often than not, is that many companies that are existing and are out there are probably solving the problems in maybe not the easiest way. So how can you concentrate on building or creating a solution for that problem that is actually going to be really easy to use and actually easy to understand for the users? That way you are going to be much more appealing and more users are going to be willing to adopt your product. So even if you're solving complex problems, try to solve them in the easiest and simplest way. The second one is that try to avoid technical debt. Again, this might be something that you might be already late for this party, because many companies and many products that are out there obviously are going to have a relatively large amount of technical debt in their products. But if you want to be as scalable as possible, you have to concentrate on how to avoid technical debt, especially shortcuts that are going to be in the future basically a roadblock for you to grow. So try to look at those potential impediments and try to remove them from the beginning so they are not going to hit you suddenly when you need them to be as smooth as possible. And we see that many examples nowadays. If you're paying attention to what's going on in the cryptocurrency world, you can see that there's many of those cryptocurrencies that nowadays are having problems when it comes to mass adoption. They grow a lot and then suddenly they are not able to handle the growth anymore, and then the company or the cryptocurrency collapses, which obviously is not very fun. Not for the company, not for the users, and not for the people that lose the investments. Another product-related item that you can take into account when you want to improve the scalability of your product is creating a proper product onboarding. So you want to make sure that users can find the value of your product as soon as possible, as soon and as easy as possible. And you want to do this as much as possible also in an automated way. You don't want that people have to reach out to anybody like a salesperson or a support person or some trainer that is going to help them adopt or learn how to use the product. You want that they can find that information as soon as possible, potentially even within the product, without having to go to Google and try to figure it out. Because in the moment that you have somebody having to go to Google, you have lost already quite a good chunk of that potential customer base. Now let's go through the business related actions that you can take forward. So first of all, one of the things that you have to think about is how can you easily support the product or the service that you're creating. Many of the products out there require relatively large amounts of support people. So there's different ways that you can solve this, like creating online communities. So users actually will help each other to find the answers to the questions that they have. Of course, it wouldn't solve an answer for a technical problem in general. For those ones, you will still need some kind of technical support. But reducing the size of your support team, of course, might have other problems like people not being happy because if there's a problem, there's nobody to answer. So you have to always find the right balance between what is too little support and what is too much support. Many of the different cases you can see many times nowadays in startup companies and companies that are in this highly scalable model, like Tesla, for example, having problem centers to do the actual technical support of not having enough people. And so it's a delicate balance that you have to find, but trying to minimize as much as possible the support is going to be something that most of the companies, when they are doing or looking for highly scalable models, they're going to focus on. Another one that is going to be very important is that you actually have a very easy purchase process. So what you don't want is that anybody that wants to purchase your products gets confused or doesn't understand the terms or doesn't even know which package or tier they had to purchase. You want them to find the answers on their own and do the decision of purchasing as easy as possible, probably also from within the product, so they don't have to contact anybody to actually do the purchasing decision. So try to focus basically on digital sales instead of one-to-one sales. And as you can imagine, when you want to reach out to quite many users, your price has to be quite appealing, so it appeals to most of the population out there. So typically when you talk about very highly scalable models, prices are going to be in many cases comparatively low compared to the rest of the competition. Although this is not always the case, because you can think that Apple, obviously with these products, it's a highly scalable model and the price tags are actually quite high. So there is the different ways of balancing this out, but something that you need to consider in a case-by-case situation. It will depend a lot on the whole design and also all the other services surrounding the product that you're selling. There's going to be other cases and other things that you could consider, which is things like franchising or licensing your product to other people. And here you could see that this could actually help you reach out other audiences that maybe trying to reach out on your own might be quite tricky to do. So in these cases, when you're thinking about licensing, and these are the cases that you actually would do more like a one-to-one sales, but you are not selling to an end user, you're selling to another business that basically is selling your products through their own products. When you talk about marketing, you also have to think about how to scale up the ways that you do marketing. There's a ton of things related to marketing automation nowadays, like SEO, SEM, and certainly not an expert on them, but those are many aspects that you have to look into how to automate the marketing processes to make sure that you can reach out to as many people as possible. And also you have to see as well, how can you build also the journey within your product to actually do that promotion as well. So not just something that you only do by email, which is okay, and many people still like that, or by social media promotion, which is still fine, but not everybody is going to look or pay attention to those sources of information. So for those ones that are only using your product, how can you actually help them make that purchase decision and start to become a paying user of your product? And yes, obviously here I'm thinking more about that you have some kind of freemium where they're testing first, and then that one will lead them into a purchasing journey. So finally, we have more like the processes side, where you can actually take different actions also to be more efficient and highly scalable in your products. So here you have to look, obviously, if you are not doing that, things like agile, things like design thinking, different principles out there that is going to help you adopt or establish more efficient ways of working that most of the tech companies out there are using nowadays. But of course, everybody using it with a different flavor, so you have to see how can you implement it in the most efficient way within your company. Here it's going to be very important that you focus on bringing that autonomy and ownership and trust into those teams, your product squads, that are going to be delivering the products end to end, meaning that they're going to plan them, they're going to design them, they're going to set the strategy and the vision, and they are going to implement them and deliver them to the user. Of course, they still have to align with whatever is the company vision on its own. Another good way of keeping or scaling your product or your processes is to set OKRs and help the teams keep the focus. Understand that these are the one or two things that we have to focus, and everything that we are going to do, is it related to this? Yes, let's do it. Is it related to this? Does it help growing this OKR that we have set? No. then forget about it. That is going to help with the focus within the teams. Then, of course, you have to have the right team. Not everybody has necessarily the culture or the mentality to work in this kind of ways. So you actually had to either train the people or find the people that are going to be able to adapt and to grow, take that ownership and drive those teams to be successful and actually help your company, your product to scale up. And finally, there is a kind of a sad realization is that you are not going to be able to make everybody happy. Especially when you think about your customers, not everybody is going to be happy if you are focused on highly scalable products, because you are going to be focused on a very specific area and you are going to be trying to solve that problem really, really well. But probably problems or needs that are very close by, but they are not exactly the same problem, you might be ignoring them. So that is something that maybe some customers you are going to have churn from because they're not going to be interested in staying with you because you're not going to be able to solve those problems. But this is going to happen pretty much with every company and any product out there. So what actions do you take when you want to scale up your product, your ways of working, or the customers that you have out there? Please let me know in the comments below. So if you think about what I've been talking, most of the things that I talk about is that when you want to build highly scalable models, you have to concentrate a lot on automating as much as possible all the processes that you have. I haven't touched much on, for example, DevOps and continuous integration, continuous delivery, but those are things that you are going to obviously have to have there. Otherwise, you are not going to be able to be a highly scalable product. So try to avoid as much as possible manual processes in anything that you are doing, from development point of view, but also to the support point of view or the sales point of view. And then you actually had to ruthlessly focus on your core. What is the value proposition that you're bringing? Focus on that one and forget on anything else when you're focusing on scaling up your user base as much as possible. But the reality is that not everybody out there will need to have highly scalable models. Many companies out there can be very successful with having just some tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users. You could argue if that's a highly scalable model or is that a very scalable user base compared to companies out there that have like even over 1 billion users. Oh well, that's kind of quite far from each other. And of course, they're solving different problems and there are different realities to all of this. But you have to analyze that how actually realistic is for you as a business or as a company or as a product to scale up your model. And is it something that you really needed? Is it something that there's good reasons to do it? Or is it something that, well, at this point, we are good as we are, we don't need to grow like 50% per quarter or anything like that. And we are okay with growing about 10 to 20% per year. So it depends a lot on the companies. One thing is going to be fine, the other one might not be. So you have to understand your reality with your situation, your team, your goals. Then you can make the decision if you had to be that company that is growing like crazy all the time, or is the company that is more steadily growing over the years. So I talk about processes, how to establish processes that are going to help you scale up your business. I as well talk about Agile being one of the most important things that you should be looking into if you want to build scalable solutions. If you want to hear more about it, go check out this video. I will see you in the next one, and remember, stay safe.